The gallery on 24th Street smelled of warmed light and other people's perfume. Arthur Langford stood by the wall where Deep Field number 7 hung, 1.5 meters of blackness, burning with 40,000 points of light, shaking hands with people whose names he forgot the instant he heard them.
Astonishing. Simply astonishing. Tell me, are these the real colors?
Over 20 years, he had worked out 3 answers to that question. A short one for journalists, an honest one for colleagues, and this one for banquets.
They're colors that exist but that you'd never see with the naked eye. The eye is nearly colorblind at night. The camera isn't. It's simply more patient than you are.
The woman laughed as if he'd said something witty and drifted off. Arthur caught his breath. He was 54. His back ached from 3 hours on his feet, and he'd noticed that all evening he'd been hearing not words but a steady hum of approval in which any words drowned. The hum was pleasant. It irritated him, precisely because it was pleasant. The prints were lit from below, and against the black walls of the gallery, they hung like windows. People stopped in front of them and fell silent. That was what Arthur truly loved. It was for that 1 second of silence that he'd hold 40 kilograms of hardware up to 2,600 meters, 12 years running. Silence was more honest than applause. He walked past his own work like a stranger. Quiet spirals which had made his name. A ragged orange nebula in front of which a boy of 7 had planted himself and refused to move. The wide field of Capricornus, an unremarkable triangle of dim stars that people passed without slowing. In a glass case by the entrance lay his working hardware, a frost-scarred dew heater, a scratched filter wheel, a dented thermos. The objects were more honest than any frame. The host tapped a fork against a glass near the small riser, beneath Deep Field number 7, and the hum settled reluctantly. He said something about the man who gave us back the night sky, named Arthur, and Arthur had to stand. No notes. Holding a glass, he sat down on the floor at once. He needed his hands free. He'd given this talk many times.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man who gave us back the night sky, Arthur Langford.
Thank you. I've just been introduced as an artist. That isn't true.
Laughter taken for modesty.
An artist invents something. I haven't invented a single one of these points of light. I'm just a man who's better than most at waiting. That's the whole craft.
He gestured, half-turned toward the canvas behind him, without touching it.
This looks like one photograph. In fact, there are 280 of them here, stacked one on another, 10 minutes each. 47 hours of light. 11 nights on a mountain where it snows in July, where you sleep with your laptop in your sleeping bag so the battery doesn't die. I'm not padding the price, it's simply that the light coming from out there is faint, and faint light takes a long time to accumulate, drop by drop.
He spoke matter-of-factly, and for that they believed him. Glasses were forgotten in hands.
And now, the real reason I'm here tonight. Pick any point of light. Anyone. The light entering your eye right now left its star a very long time ago. From the near ones, decades ago. From the far ones, thousands of years. That smudge in the corner there, 27,000 years ago, before a single word had been written on Earth. We say looking at the stars. That's not quite right. You can't look at a star, you can only look at its past. Every photograph I make is a time machine, and it runs one way, and one way only.
He held the pose. He knew its worth.
And here's the part that matters. Some of these stars, the ones you're looking at right now, no longer exist. The light is still arriving. The star is already gone.
The room went quiet, a second longer than comfortable. Arthur held that silence himself. Then he let it go.
Usually, this is where someone spills their champagne.
The room exhaled, laughed, and applauded. Warm, sustained. That second of silence before the laughter had been more honest than all this applause, and Arthur knew it. He stepped down, retrieved his glass from the floor, and finally made it to a corner table where he could sit and take the expression off his face. He sat alone for about 3 minutes.
Is this seat taken?
She was standing there with a glass, not looking at the photographs. Around 35. Dark hair pinned up carelessly. A dress that was expensive and clearly uncomfortable. The kind worn not to stand out. And that only made you stand out twice as much. Her face was tired and very attentive. Not off a magazine cover, more like out of a reading room.
It's free. Sit down, though fair warning, I'm poor company after 8 p.m.
Claire Hendricks, I'm not going to ask for an autograph.
Then you're my favorite guest tonight.
She smiled, brief, polite.
Beautiful show.
Thank you.
Especially number 7. Long time putting that one together?
He brightened, the way he always brightened when the talk turned to the work rather than to him.
11 nights, 280 frames at 600 seconds each, 4 filters, minus 22 on site. I had to keep the laptop in my sleeping bag.
47 hours of light.
Almost 48, you count fast.
I've had a lot of practice. May I ask you something? It's going to sound rude. I don't mean it to be.
Go ahead. Every question I've heard tonight has been the same one. I could use some variety.
Claire Hendricks turned her glass by the stem, then looked at him directly.
What is it exactly that you photograph?
Arthur waited for the rest of the question. There wasn't one.
How do you mean?
Literally, what does your camera's sensor record, and what is it that you then show us so vividly, so lovingly at shows like this one?
Well, isn't it obvious? Distant galaxies, star clusters, emission nebulae. Over there by the entrance, that's the region around a supermassive black hole, or rather, what glows around one. Any astronomer could tell you that better than I can.
Are you sure?
Sure of what, exactly?
You said it yourself from the stage half an hour ago that you're looking into the past, that this is light from something that existed hundreds, thousands, millions of years ago. You said it very well. The room went quiet.
Arthur felt a familiar warmth. The conversation was turning onto ground where he was at home.
Yes, that's all correct. That's precisely what I photograph. The past, the only time machine that actually works, stands in New Mexico and weighs 40 kilos.
Claire took a sip from her glass, smiled conciliatorily, and went on.
Let me give you an example. Last year you had a piece in ordinary white field, the constellation Capricornus, large frame 4-hour exposure. I believe it was number 3 in that series.
There was once, yes.
It contains Deneb, Algedi and Castra. Tell me, how far away are they? Do you remember?
Arthur opened his mouth and closed it. He remembered the focal length. He remembered that the guide camera had lost lock 3 times that night. He remembered the taste of cold coffee at 4 in the morning. The distances he didn't remember.
No, I couldn't tell you offhand.
Claire tilted her head slightly.
Deneb Algedi, Delta Capricorni, 39 light years. No real dispute there. It's a nearby star. The parallax is measured with confidence. Castra is more interesting. Different catalogs give different figures, and the spread is considerable. Parallax is for hot, fast, instrumental thing to measure, but every dataset agrees on one point. Not less than 157 light. Farther, possibly. Closer, light years. No.
So even you don't know exactly where it is?
I don't. And notice, that doesn't stop me from using the figure. I take the lower bound, and it's enough to make my point. And in the same frame, lower left corner, you have M30. 27,000 light years, give or take 1,000 there too, and no one considers that a problem.
He said it without irony, and she heard that.
It's impressive that you know all this. Genuinely. But where's the contradiction?
Claire spoke evenly, without pressing the point the way one delivers a lecture given many times before, though never out loud, only to oneself.
You show us these stars simultaneously, in one photograph, in one frame, under one caption. But the light from each of them traveled to your camera for a completely different span of time. Dene Balgedi sent you its image when you were a teenager. Castra sent it at the very least 100 years before you were born, possibly 4 times that. We don't know. M30 sent it before there was any writing on Earth at all. It follows that what you're showing us never existed. Not like that, simultaneously in that arrangement relative to one another, never and never will. It's a fiction, or if you prefer, the subjective perception of your camera. But it is not in any sense reality.
At the next table, someone was talking loudly about an auction. Arthur heard every word and understood none of them.
You're technically correct. Entirely. But what does any of that mean? And are you telling me I shouldn't be doing this?
She looked at him, almost gently.
Do whatever you like. I didn't come here to stop you, Mr. Langford. I started with a question. Do you understand what it is you're photographing? And the fact that every conclusion we draw about what the universe is happens only inside our own heads proves nothing. Not that it exists, not that it has any properties at all. What we're all doing here is discussing our own fantasies, sharing them, convincing one another they're true, and selling them framed for $8,000 apiece.
That's cruel.
That's cheap on my part. Forgive the figure, it isn't really relevant.
Claire Hendricks stood, set her half-finished glass on the edge of the table, gave a polite nod, and within a minute her dark head had vanished among the backs of the crowd, filling the great banquet hall. Arthur remained seated. The host said something into the microphone. Then music played. Then the overhead lights were dimmed, leaving only the glow beneath the prints, and deep field number 7 hung in the darkness like a window into a room that didn't exist. Arthur sat there, lost in thought, for a long while, long enough that the guard passed by twice before, working up the nerve to ask if everything was all right.
Everything all right?
Everything's fine. I'm just looking.
It's beautiful. Looks real.